Welcome, fellow men and women of culture. If you follow my channel, there's a good chance that you like anime and Japanese media in general, through which there is a decent chance that you have heard of a little something called Toho, a game franchise best known for its artistic fan base, its music, the fact that Toho fans never even touched the game to begin with, and diverse doujinshi productions, including some of the most fucked up hentai I have ever read. And I've read a shit ton of hentai, almost numbering 5,000 on a certain site before the purge that happened earlier this year. If you are interested in how this came to be, there are enough videos out there to explain this phenomenon. I instead want to talk about an ERAToho fan game. Toho K is a strategy text adventure dating sim and is loosely based on the Three Kingdoms era of Chinese history, which is best known for being a setting to one of the Total War games, being the setting to Kingdom, a really great manga, and for being the time period during which the great strategist Kong Ming lived, who's known to the broad masses thanks to a little anime called Paripikome, also known as Yaboy Kong Ming, who you should not mistake for Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War, who then again is not to be mistaken for Sun, the guy who actually made Toho to begin with. In this game, you play as a character, either custom-made or already established in Genzokyo. Thus, you can be either the country's leader or a commander. And I think this is quite a fair bit of fun and makes playing this game quite interesting, because the game does not end if your country falls. You instead become a wanderer and can join another country as a commander or establish your own. If you play as a commander, you can even revolt against your lord or stage a coup, convince others to join you, or just retire. There is even a chance that another lord wants to poach you, if you manage to make a name for yourself, that is, offering you money and women, sometimes even themselves. The game ends as soon as someone managed to unify the map, either through diplomacy or by force, but it can also end once you die. Now you might be asking, if I don't lose once my country falls, and I only lose if I die, how do I die? And that is a very easy question to answer. You have to be hated by a bunch of characters and then lose a battle, after which you have to get captured. And then they might decide to execute you. You have no input over this whatsoever, but there are skills that make it more likely to capture and escape. There is a small chance that you can die during combat, but you have to enable that option first in settings. If you run a country, you can do so manually, or you automate the process by having an AI do it for you. This means you don't need to recruit troops, build buildings, research tech, declare attacks, and even create new armies. You can still do so, and you can even switch in between AI control and manual control. But I found AI to cut down on the tedium, as administrative work was never my strong suit, and I am more of a warlord than anything else. The one thing AI won't do for you is manage diplomatic relations, but you can still automate it by setting up a repeated money transfer. But if you want a ceasefire or an alliance, you will still have to visit the diplomacy menu and engage with the system. If you feel especially spicy, you can play as a special faction, which plays mostly similar but has additional mechanics, such as bandits, tentacles, outsiders, succubi, and even a certain vile creature who is waiting for the time inside of the depraved burrow. Oh no, the goblins have returned! Run for your lives! Combat is confusing. I'm sure if I were to dig into it, I might find a very complex system. But you don't need to understand combat to beat the game. Here's how it works. Big number good, small number bad. Also A, B good, C, D, E, F bad. Also magic is absolutely busted. Even an F in magic is enough to ruin one's day. Trust me. I had a character over multiple playthroughs. Thanks to Wish I got an S in attack, defense and magic, and I could fight 30k armies with 3 generals. There aren't 4 generals in this game, but with 3 generals solo, with measly 5k manpower, and still win. Then there are also skills, of which you can learn 5 per category, which increases one's capabilities even further. Now, if that were all there is to it, this game might be a decent little strategy game. But remember, this is also a dating sim. Every turn you get to interact with your officers. You can talk to them, take them out on a date, and train with them. At some point, you can even put a ring on their finger. What does that do? It changes the ending a little bit. But to be honest, the dating sim system is rather lackluster. Dates are only measured in a predetermined stat, and interactions are, for the most part, very one-sided. It seems like a fun system at first, with you evaluating what actions to take next, until you realize how shallow it actually is. You just need to talk with them. A bunch. And I know this makes me sound like an incel, because obviously you need to talk to someone before doing the deed. But the system is not engaging. Honeypop had a talk option, and the girls would quiz you on a bunch of stuff, like trivia about them, or how you feel about certain things, how they feel about certain things. It was all predetermined, sure, but it felt somewhat organic, and dare I say, real. I do not expect all the girls to have multiple unique topics. I find that to be unreasonable, but maybe have a set of questions that every girl can ask, with multiple answers that respond to certain character traits, or a hidden value. I think this would make the system more engaging, instead of talk 10 times with certain character, then initiate physical contact and talk until they give consent. Don't get me wrong, I like the system, I like that it's there, and I like the idea behind it. It's really great, but the execution is a little bit lackluster. The age scenes work the same way, but there is an actual system in place. You know, there is something wrong with the dating aspect. In a dating sim, when the sex has a better and deeper system, if only by a bit. You see, consensual partners need to enjoy these periods. Otherwise, they will stop the interaction, meaning if you want to slap them around a bit, maybe whip them, or use them to relieve yourself, then you need to get them to like that sort of stuff. Which you can do by multiple means. Either making them dependent. This can most easily be done by throwing them in jail, where you can train them, during which they have no say in the matter, until they come out as a broken mess. After which they will no longer stop you, no matter what you do, or you get them accustomed to stuff, like maybe choke them a little, until their masochism reaches a high enough level, which would result in them having a more open outlook on things. At some point, they might even earn a trait that causes them to like that sort of stuff and crave it. Some of the characters might have a weird symbol next to them, indicating that they are ovulating. And you know what this means? We're back to playing goblins, Burrow. It's time for a new eugenics program. Sadly, this is not how it works. Well, it does somewhat, but not to the same extent. Prisoners, however, work quite well. Persuading them to join your side is a decent system that makes sense until you think about it. And punishing, or rather abusing a prisoner, makes sense for an eroge as an option to have. You can even put them to work in a brothel for a little extra cash. Same goes for your own officers, by the way. Everything we have discussed so far makes it a decent game. But here's what makes it, at least for me, a good game. After every turn you get random events. These can be either miscellaneous events, character-specific events, generic events, or situational events. And I love them all. The generic and miscellaneous events are whatever, but character events and situational events are so good because they need very specific flags to be triggered, and they give you a great variety of those. For example, in one of my playthroughs, I had Marissa Kirisame and Alice Margatroyd in prison. I tormented them both until one of these two started to try to negotiate into releasing the other, after which you could choose to either ignore them, release them, or to make a deal, maybe even a bet. And it was this moment, and moments like these, that really make the game. Every time you get to make a decision, it gives you a feeling of power, like you can actually influence the world and what is going to happen. And the writing for those events is good compared to some other games that I have played in the past, though it is still quite cliché at some times. But is it really a bad thing? I mean, tropes and clichés become as such for good reasons, mainly because they work so well. Some of you might be asking whether or not the game is based with its writing on canon or fanon, and the answer to that is, I don't know. I would assume fanon, simply because I'm not aware of canon supplementary materials that would allow all of these characters to be sufficiently characterized, who have written as many events as they had. But maybe the guy behind this game is just that good of a writer? Who knows? Maybe a real Toho fan could answer this question, because I am not a real Toho fan. I play the games after all. Now, I have talked about everything this game has to offer, even how the sexual content works. But let me tell you, I really enjoy the options this game gives you. From being unimaginably cruel, to being submissive and breedable, and everything in between. The game gives you every option that you could want from an open-ended eroge and a choose-your-own-adventure type game such as this one. And when I say you can be cruel, I mean it. I don't know what is up with this community and making fucked up stuff, but they make some of the most heinous shit out there. And even just in writing, this one is seriously fucked up. And I love it. I'm not even necessarily talking about the eroge part. Whenever you capture an enemy commander, you are offered an option, letting them go or imprisoning them. You can even execute them. And those are the cruelest things. Hopefully you can read some of these examples on screen right now. Looking at everything I have said, do I recommend this game? Yeah, you can do a lot of things, and the replay value is insane. I myself have already done multiple different runs, and will continue to do so. If you know the characters, this is great. But if you do not know any of the characters, that's still fine. It just means that you will figure out what character is about what, who is who. The game is incredibly silent though, so you might want to put on some music in the background. I recommend Active Needs and the Toho orchestral covers. They are really amazing and sound very militaristic, fitting for a game like